And we're back and moving into our final conversation for today. We're going to be getting all the details about the Innovate Belize Summit 2019. We have with us on set Mervyn Budran, no stranger to us here at Open Your Eyes.
Good morning, good morning.
And you are here as one of the participants of the Youth Leadership of the Americas program. Yeah. And we also have one of the U.S. hosts, Bill Neidlinger. Good morning.
Good morning.
Did I get it right?
Close enough. I answer to a lot of things.
But thank you for being here.
Great. Thanks for having us. It's a pleasure being here this morning with you.
And I'm really excited to hear about the Innovate Summit, but I'm also really interested to hear about your experience as well, Mervyn.
Great. Yeah, it's one of those things where those experiences that comes along that you're like, okay, how did I end up here? How did this happen? And I was privileged to be a part of the YLAI the program that happened last year. I actually was stationed in Boston for 5 weeks. That was a nerve-wracking time because that means being away from my family for 5 weeks. And I was like, should I do it? Should I not? And my wife fully supported me. She's like, go for it. And,
so let's step back before you go forward, right? So were you nominated? Did you apply? What happened there?
Well, I actually heard about the program through SPDC, through Bell Trade. I'm a client of SPDC.
Yes.
And I got a message from them saying, hey, this is an opportunity. You should consider applying for it. And so I did through my company, Task Belize. I applied. It was one of those wild cards. I honestly wasn't, I was like, okay, I'll just do it and see what happens. And I was pleasantly surprised to find out that I was one of the 5 candidates that was selected from Belize to go and have this experience. And from there was history.
So this is like the ultimate mentorship program you want to get into. So it takes young entrepreneurs, places them with most of the times established companies or very similar companies in the States, and you just thrown in there in the mix, and you get to learn as you go. Yeah,
and that's what happened. I was selected to go to Boston. I had Jenna. She was actually from the YLAI Boston arm, and she started reaching out to me and said, hey, who are you? Let's get to know each other. What's your company about? And then she did the task of finding a fit for me in Boston, a company that did similar stuff that I did, and even at a higher scale of what I did, and then the opportunity to be able to sit in, work with them, do business with them, do life with them, and learn and grow and ask tons of questions, which I did ask him tons of questions. That's how I met Bill, you know.
I know. So tell me about the similarities of the work that you do.
I do a lot of marketing work, consultation, videos, website development, and that's kind of like my main thing that I do that brings in the money. And Bill company, Banyan Tree Global, that's what they do at a much higher scale. They do a lot of innovation, they do a lot of branding and communication strategy. So they will sit with you, and it's amazing to watch them do it. They would sit with someone and just listen to what their goals are and what they want to do, and then they're like, okay, this is great. Okay, if we do this, we do that, we actually can scale it up and do that and take it, and this is the messaging. And I'm like, oh, that's how you do it. You know? And so it was just amazing. And the awesome thing with them, they also work with companies not just in the US but London and throughout different areas, and they have such a global influence. And so it really helped me as well to better articulate what I do, because in Belize we all do design, graphics. And I really wanted to set myself apart. I knew even before I went on this trip, I was in a transitional stage, and I'm like, what's next? The market is getting saturated like crazy, and I'm like, do I still want to do this? And actually I was like not even sure if I wanted to keep my business open, because I felt like I had hit a wall with my business. And after being up there, I got exposed to opportunities. I got exposed to where I can take my business on the next phase. And so I'm still in transition with that. We're making some adjustments in-house. I'm making some adjustment in my communication strategy, in developing myself so that I can better offer the service where we're going as a company.
Yeah. Bill has so much pride as he sees it.
No, I mean it's really fun, and on I don't know if other people in the program get matched probably as well as
we was like a perfect match.
Just our experiences, not only just in our career but in our life, and then even in our free time. We both are creative musically and sing.
Oh, and I was going to ask if we sang for you.
So I can't wait till our single drops. But right now our first album is in Belize. But just similar pathways, but in different places. So I think we both have been able to learn from each other, and then also just bounce ideas. I think one of the strongest things you can have is a safe place to share ideas, because that's a place where you can have bad ideas and good ideas, and just kind of even saying things out loud and reading the room, even if that room is one other person. So I think, especially where he's doing is taking his business to the next level. I think both having journeys where we started hands-on to then really being, I tell them, you're an expert in your field. You've done it for so long that that even with the influx of first-timers coming in, if you will, and saying, oh yeah, I have a laptop, I can do your website, I can create your communication strategy. Experience is invaluable, and he has a lot of it. And I think just both of us in that place where we kind of kind of adjusted where we were, and our focus was just perfect.
Now, but Bill, tell me about your own incentives in being able to open yourself up and your company up to having someone from another country. Pretty much, I mean, they're spying on you. They're seeing, are you doing it right? Are you a healthy work environment? Or even feeling that you can be able to offer them an experience that will help them grow.
And there's a couple of moments where you want to enjoy the sausage, you don't want to see how it's being made. That sort of level of transparency can be a little scary.
Yes.
But I think too, and then as he and I discussed the experience last summer, I mean, it's still, I think, the process of, wow, that was fascinating. His insight into where I am has been invaluable. And I think the thing is, I grew up with a global mindset. I think, I had a wonderful chance to study abroad, and I lived in Holland. I have a cousin I'm very close to in Germany. So my own sphere is there's no us and them, and it's like all us together, right? And so I knew that it was sort of on a whim, and then it was perfect. But I knew that this would, one way or another, be a great partnership. And then who knew that I would be here and reverse and be a guest in this fantastic country and have a chance to learn in a whole nother way. And it's been absolutely brilliant.
I find that when we talk to the entrepreneurs who are a part of this program, there are far more benefits than just learning the tricks of the trade or skills of the trade, I should say. It's also learning work cultures and environments. And so where culturally there's a lot of difference between how we do business in Belize and how most businesses in the US would operate. What are some of the lessons you learned there? Because he's talking about brainstorming session. Brainstorming in Belize, people like to do things on demand. Okay, let's do something now.
That was
or
huge.
Let's create it and then see if it works afterward.
That was huge. I mean, have a plan and have a timeline. Like, okay, we're actually going to roll this out, and to be able to step back and say, okay, in the next 3 months, this is what we're going to do, and then actually have a plan that leads to that. I mean, that was very new for me. Although we've done some of it, I've been involved with many events, but in Belize, we're so last minute. We're so used to, we get creative on the pressure when it's due, right? So even preparing for this event.
I can relate to that.
Even preparing for this event in Innovate Belize, Bill was hitting me up from January. So what about this, and this? And I was like, give me a break, dude. But it was that whole thing of being able to plan ahead, set something in place so that when you come in, you're not coming in stressed. You're actually coming relaxed and be able to know, okay, this is set, that's set, and we're ready. So that was huge for me, and the word community, that to me, I saw that was my biggest impact, being able to step into a business community and find community. Like I was like, oh, I'm not weird. Like, I'm not weird to think this way or want to do things this way. And I think that was huge for me because there was a lot of networking sessions. You know, we almost every night we were at some networking meeting. We're meeting some delegate. We're meeting some group of people, and to be able to walk up to someone cool and like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do, and let's connect. Like for us, we don't really do that in Belize. Like it's who introduced you to who, and it's slowly you kind of. But there, I mean, I was able to call up. I wanted. There's part of what I'm going to be doing moving forward is a business idea and stuff, and I'm like, okay, who's doing this in Boston? And I was able to send the guy a message and say, hey, I'm from Belize. I'm here for 5 weeks. This is an idea I'm thinking about. Can I meet with you? You've done this before. Can I come and just ask a couple of questions? And I'm like, sure. I have this time available. Let's spend half hour. And I was able to sit and ask real hard questions and got real honest feedback. And one of the feedback was like, yeah, you might need to consider if you want to do that in Belize. Your population is small, and I'm not sure if that will work in Belize. Belize might be a good testing ground, but consider launching it here or launching it here. Yeah. And so it was that element of community, that element of networking, and being able to just get honest feedback. And for me, that was the biggest impact, and for me, I want to see that in Belize. Like we're not there yet; we're on that process.
Yeah.
But I mean,
would you feel comfortable calling up someone in Belize and asking them, "Hey, how'd you get successful?
Tell
me what not to do."
I know, and I would not. I honestly would not. There's a few people that I'm in relationship with that, but over the years we've developed good friendship, working relationship, and we can do that. So I have some of that here, but in the country on a large base, it's not the reality for a lot of entrepreneurs coming up, and it's something that even at the Innovate Belize event, that's part of the discussion we want to kind of start have. This is where the future is at.
That is some of the DNA.
And how do we align to get to there now? Yeah.
I think some of the DNA that he witnessed is now in kind of as when we came together, and I tell him, I said, even the biggest tree comes from the smallest seed. Or craziest idea, and thus here we are, and some of that of what he witnessed, and I think that the idea of mentorship and community is huge. Like Isaac Newton said, that if I have seen further in this life, it's because I stood on shoulder of giants, right? And I know there have been giants in my life, be it from my first job to my last, is there's been people who are like, hey, you're curious, you're hungry, let me show you, even hard lessons to friendly lessons.
Yeah.
And I think that idea of openness and like the idea if your success it greatly correlates to my success.
Yeah.
And having those honest conversations.
And not obstruction.
Yeah.
But, when he talks about going into your work environment and feeling that sense of community, tell me about how you were able to achieve that. Because that would be something I think naturally everybody wants that in the workplace, but how organic is it? Yeah. Or is it something that comes with a lot of effort?
I think there's column A and column B to that. But there's some just naturally, if you're curious, and I think there's enough experience in the room where it's like, not our first rodeo, like we understand. But I think, and I'll speak to, it's almost the nature of this, it's a very interesting time, I'd say, if I would remove myself in Boston right now for innovation, be it in the startup world. And you have these brain trusts, if you will, from MIT and Harvard, where some of the world's smartest people come to, and they start kicking about ideas. And what has been set up for them are these areas of community where they can talk and say, hey, I have an idea for a company. So it's like, oh, that's brilliant. Hey, if you do that, I'll do that. And then all of a sudden, it goes off, right? You have everything from iRobot, who has actually, we have one at home, and I call it R2D2. Those little vacuums that can go around. To this is some people from Uber came out of some programs. It's just amazing, that sort of community. And so I myself mentor and give back. I've run a number of marketing workshops in the startup community, working with accelerator programs from Europe, and then those based in Boston. Yeah, and that's interesting.
You know, we've seen so many people who come on and talk of the importance of mentorship, you know, from entrepreneurship to small businesses, or even for people who are just breaking out with brand new innovative ideas. But it still is a struggle, you know, and it could be small community, it could be the competition, and everybody wants to get out there. What do you think are some of the lessons that we can learn from others that would help us to understand that developing a good mentorship relationship between, whether it's young businesses and old businesses, or new businesses and slightly new businesses, how it can help rather than hinder?
You know, I think it's key. I think first it has to do with mindset. And even when I came into business, I had the awesome experience of having two bosses. I graduated from college and I started to work for one company in Belmopan. It was Shamax Production at the time. I worked for them and they actually helped me get going in my business. My philosophy was, I won't bite the hand that fed me. I didn't want to launch out, and my boss at the time, Mr. Wade, he was like, "No, go and do it." And I'm like, "I can't. I don't want to compete with you."
Take business.
Yeah. And he shut down a department. He said, "Okay, I'm shutting down the audio department. You take that." And that's kind of how I got involved with audio music production development. And then I started work to Richard and Heda as a website company, and to see how they worked with me and pretty much coached me along, brought me along. It was different. I've never had that experience. And so from that point, I saw how important mentorship was. And so when I started my company, Belize, that was essential for me. That was key. And there's two other companies right now in our films. The first animation, Tata Duende. David Smith, he used to work for me. And from the beginning, what's your dream? And he's like, I want to do cartoon. I'm like, well, go for it. We'll support you. So we support him and help him go. And he comes to us for advice and stuff like that. And then we have Glenn Roden, visuals by Glenn Patrick. And that's another graphic design company. He worked with me for 8 years, and it was the same thing. And so I believe if we all see the importance of passing on and pushing on to the next generation, Belize on a whole and the world on a whole will be better. It will get we will advance. And I feel like that's the approach we need to take. I believe the pie is big enough that all of us can get a slice. I don't need the entire slice. I don't need the entire pie. I just need my share, and then I have to be selfless enough to share it with others and bring others in. And so I think that's important to have as a foundation if it's going to work, and to know that by doing that, we're actually making sure that Belize and all our ventures last for the long haul and not just for the here and now.
And so how do we fit this in to an innovation summit?
Sure. Yeah, and I think when you look at the programming that we put together, we wanted to, because there's a lot of this is all connected. And you know, this has been wonderful because I've already been in Belize for over a week. And my own mindset has shifted to understand the conversations that are happening. And the people that we have on our panels, to our keynotes, we've had amazing talks about what is going on, what challenges they see. And there's always, you know, everything's connected. Okay, so you have policy, you have the economy, you have education, you have small business development, and all those things are interconnected. And hearing how people have pain points, or where there are strengths and where there's opportunities. And what we really hope to do is sort of have this conversation in the open to people who don't get a chance to hear it, but also, you know, with the whole seed idea is that this conversation should continue. This isn't a one-day, 8-hour session of deliciousness. It is a year of deliciousness. I think we'll have a lot of great content from this day that we hope to share, where people can go to and say, oh, wow, that's really interesting. And we've set up time for networking. So I think there's going to be conversations about what is it to innovate? Is it big, huge Uber type stuff? Or is it as simple as process? Or is it as simple, can old industries innovate? You know, there's an example of like a sugarcane farmer being able to utilize some data on a a smart, like an iPad,
Yeah.
and get a better yield, get better quality. So yeah.
Yeah, and so how did you guys get linked up in putting together the summit?
Well, I think what was brilliant about the program and having him in the office is we had time to talk.
Yeah.
Obviously, great questions, because he's a fly on the wall, witnessing the day-to-day of banality that I get to face, and he gets to be a mirror.
Banality to you, but not necessarily to him. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful mirror. And then as we talked about ideas and opportunities and what was going on in Belize, from everything from how do you create a community? Do you need a shared workspace, which is huge in the States right now, to does that help facilitate conversation? And a lot of those places push to help facilitate the conversation.
Yeah.
So I think we had a chance to work on a proposal to get myself here, and we were throwing around a lot of ideas. I said, well, let's try to have that conversation. Let's get people together. And like, I know you know people. It's like, you're a rock star. Like, I know you know people. And so I think we were able to, kind of throw a lot of stuff against the wall. Some of it stuck. And we got approval to have a little bit of the seed to then start nurturing it and make this happen.
And so what were the key concepts that you wanted to be able to deliver? Because clearly you have, 50 million targets in being able to get there. But what are the foundations that you hope this first summit will be able to cover?
The importance of digital transformation, the importance of data and utilizing that to make better decisions, I believe is key. And also the element of what we were talking about, innovation isn't necessarily the big thing. There's all these different elements of innovation, and where are you at, and how do you make that next step forward to align yourself to the future? Because the future is coming, and whether or not we want it, it's coming. So we have two options. We either kind of push our head in the ground and ignore it, or we look at it and say, okay, this is coming. How do I align myself to not get passed by and to bring it into the now?
Do you think sometimes it's language? You say innovate, and it seems so far-reaching. It seems so innovative. It seems so,
big words,
change the world and create the brand new project that somehow nobody thought of before. When maybe we're really just it just boils down to transforming or perhaps progressing with time.
You nailed it, I think. And there's the big buzzword in the States right now is digital transformation, and the whole idea that every single person's job will be affected because of progress, because of innovation. It doesn't mean jobs end, jobs change. And so how do you realign and embrace a new mindset, and leapfrog? We had a discussion about being able to leapfrog technologies, process, etc., is why I haven't owned a landline phone in years. I think, and you don't have to worry about old infrastructure that's costly and expensive. You can embrace a new idea. And that's just like a small example of the kind of mindset shift that I think is happening around the world. And I think really excites Mervyn and really excites me, and being able to be a guest and also learn here is amazing.
So you said you've been around for a week. So I'm very sure you've seen the landscape in Belize where we're not transforming to digital. We're just starting to go digital. So it's a huge leap. There are some who are ahead of the curve, I'll be honest. But it's a lot of, there's still a lot of resistance to being digital because of generational gaps in companies. And then there's also kind of the millennials who are already in that world. So there's so much catching up that has to take place across the board. What are your thoughts as to how you'll be able to really spur some action at the summit?
I think conversation is important. It's interesting. We actually sat and met with, because part of the program we've been doing free consultation to business and just startups and also larger companies and where they're at and helping them to kind of move forward. And in one of those consultations, it was a pretty large business, and it's like, we know we need to be on social media, and there's all these reservations and stuff. But in sitting there and having that conversation and connecting where you need to be, the why behind you need to be there, I mean, that the lights start turning on, and I saw an ease on this owner's face as, oh yeah, well, I guess we are in the right direction, and also it doesn't mean, yes, it does, going on social media, embracing doesn't mean you throw everything out the window. You still have to keep your wits, you still have to keep your gut and know, okay, I know that's where it's going, but my gut is telling me to wait, or my gut is telling me to, you know, maybe this part, and so you still need some of those old school.
It's like people who still like standing in a bank line, right?
I don't.
And it's understanding the difference between a tactic and a strategy too, especially from the marketing world. Is the first thing I like to do with anyone is pump the brakes a bit and say, okay, so I remember a client came to me and said, you know, I think I need a video, you know, like a 1.5 minute explainer, you know, really telling my solution. This will be great. So I pumped the brakes. I said, brilliant, sounds great, want your money. This is great. You know, this is like, I didn't say that
1.5 minutes.
But I'm like, cha-ching, great. This is going to be a good client. And then I said, well, let's take a look at your social channels. Let's take a look at your website. Let's take a look at your efforts, because I don't want to just give you a piece. I want to give you something that fits within your strategy and where you're trying to go. And so asking those questions, even in this conversation we started discussing, and people are starting to be, you know, we all have smartphones, which are basically supercomputers in our pocket that are the perfect marketing tool. And we live not just in the real world, but we have digital identities. And so part of brands being able to have those touch points, at least 5 is the rule of thumb of if you have 5 touch points with your brand and an individual, they feel more comfortable about making a purchase decision. So having television ads, buy the ads on the TV here, yes, is great, but also making sure that you have a digital plan, so you get people, and people are changing the way they live and work, and the way their communities are online. I had a great chance to see the show, where the karaoke live show kind of thing. And just to see the people's comments, people are watching, and people are even having conversations on that. So people are very comfortable with a digital life. So if, you know,
too comfortable.
Almost too comfortable,
We're a lot kinder than that show would demonstrate sometimes. But
it's funny because
it's just very competitive.
He and I are watching, and we're, you know, both being singers, we're kind of rough, right? I'm like, oh man, he's so pitchy, but I can't talk.
So the tickets are downstairs for you to go to the show, just so you know, and I'm sure you can stream while you're there. But we're running out of time, and I don't want to miss the opportunity for us to tell people how they can get involved. I think what you are offering is perhaps just the start or the spark of a conversation for people who oftentimes feel very overwhelmed at the idea of digital transformation. So tell me about your speakers. Tell me who can go and how we can get involved.
Yeah, we have a really great lineup. We have Yuri Alpuche as one of our keynote speakers. We had a great conversation with her. We're just looking forward to just having her on, as well as Dr. John Eckhart. He is from Maine, close to
my northern neighbor.
And he'll be talking about just how do you position yourself for success, and keys
that
to
mindset, right?
That mindset, I'm thinking. And then we have some great panel discussions. We have from DFC that will be there talking about finance, Mr. Jaime. We have Shelley Usher as well. Her story, her innovation story as well. We have Melanie Escalante that's going to be one of our facilitators, and we have a large list, to be honest. So I would say go to our site, Belize.com, to see the rest of speakers that will be there. And we're looking forward to kind of having a good time. It's actually this Thursday. It's from 8 in the morning until 5 in the evening. Where actually registration is closed.
We just closed it last night.
We've reached our...
Which is exciting.
We've reached our capacity. However, if you're interested, reach out to us, innobelize@gmail.com. Someone might drop out.
If somebody cancels,
if someone cancels,
you
can be on the waiting list again and get in. And yeah, so.
Yeah, and not just this year, if you miss this, this is a long-term play.
Yeah.
So if people want to get involved, if people want to help be a sponsor, be a part of our dream team, or Team Awesome as I call it, who are helping us out, you know, like we can't do this ourselves. And so I want to come back. I want to see things change. I was first in Belize in 2004. It's great to see how things are progressing. And this dynamic duo is not going to end after Thursday.
All right, so here's what happens. So since you have no more space, you got to leave people with something. They just got drawn in and they can't go now. So what are you going to tell them about how they can get their own spark going, whether in their company, in their whatever they're doing?
Well, I think the biggest thing is be curious. Just like in that anecdote with the client about pumping the brake. What I really mean is ask questions. If you don't know, there's someone that you probably know that knows. And ask, hey, can I have some insight, or do you have 5 minutes? Can I buy you a cup of coffee? I still reach out to people all the time. I have a really great network that I depend on, who are not just friends, but also I seek out mentors. You can't just wait for someone to say, seems like a good kid, has a lot of gumptions. Let me give you some tips. That's not going to happen. You know, you have to get fed yourself. And I think what this is, be curious, ask questions, try to understand. You may not be able to innovate like this, but look what's going down the pike, you know, and seek out experts who know what they're talking about, who have, you know, seek this guy out.
And one of the buzzword for me, I've been talking a lot about is unfiltered courage. You know, we've put so many fear factor, and we've just stifled our creativity. And so I want to say, remove the fear filter and just have courage and step out. And if you fail, it's okay. Learn from it and keep trying. Keep going.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
Best of luck on Thursday.
Thank you.
Cheers.
All right. We're going to go ahead and take our final break now. And when we come back, we'll have our wrap up. So stay tuned.